Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to tonight's Conquering Cancer live webcast. Let me make sure everything's good here. Yep, looks like we are rock and rolling. So we are live here. I am Nathan Crane, the host of the Conquering Cancer documentary series, The Missing Link, and I'm really honored and excited to be here this evening with two extraordinary women who are a major part of our Conquering Cancer documentary series to help answer many of your questions, to help answer some of maybe the unanswered questions that you've had after watching the series, and to help inspire and encourage and uplift all of you who are on this journey, whether it's cancer prevention that you're seeking, or you're trying to help a loved one through their cancer journey, or you yourself have cancer and you're looking for solutions, for insight, for inspiration, for support. And that's what this webcast is all about. And that's what we will get into. So let me do just a little bit of a housekeeping here. So I want to take a moment and hear from you. I've heard from a lot of people so far how much this series has inspired them. And I'd love for you to get engaged with us. So this is how you're going to be able to ask questions during this webcast and leave us your feedback. Where you're watching this video right now, scroll down, and a little bit below the video, you should see a comment question box. Right there, you can submit your questions or comments for myself, for Dr. Dana Flavin, for Pilar Davila, who I'm going to introduce both of them here in just a moment. And so to get engaged and get going here, let me go down to that box and please tell me, what was your favorite episode that you saw? What was a favorite episode of the series that you saw? And how many episodes did you get to see? I know some people watched all of them and said it was the most amazing series they've ever watched. I know some people only got to watch one because their time was, they just didn't have time to watch more, and others got to watch 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to share with you some of the feedback that came back here before we dive in. And I want to let you know that there is still a discount available if you want to order and own the entire series for life. All the episodes, all the transcripts, all the audios, the bonus unaired videos as well. All those details are below this video as well. And so if you missed any of the episodes, you can order them digitally or on DVD or both and own them for the rest of your life, so you never have to miss any of that life-saving information again. Brio Rose said, the first episode was amazing. This is my first time listening. I'm looking forward to all the episodes. Bruce Lipton was spot on. So this is what she, Bree had wrote. Elviri Smith said, again, another one for Bruce Lipton, which he's obviously one of my favorites as well. He said, Bruce Lipton is truly my hero. Your mindset controls your genes, i.e. the health of your body. Learned so much from this man. He changed my world. Thank you so much. Lilija Siles says, thank you so much for this series. It's a real eye-opener. I have a few people, one of them is my relative, who are fighting cancer. It'd be so great for them to hear these episodes. Well, they can. You can, when you buy the series, you actually get one free to give to your family as well. That's one way we're giving back, is when you order the series for yourself, you also get to give that gift to a loved one as well. She said, God bless everyone who worked on these episodes, helping people to change their thinking and helping to understand how powerful our own body and our mind are. Looking forward to continue that great journey with you all. Joe Merkin said, bravo, thank you for your brilliance and kindness, empowering, compassionate information. Mike said, oh my goodness, this is such valuable info. Thank you. Just isn't enough. Virginia said, loving this series, especially that's doable, not hours and hours long. Really great information. Thank you. It's one of the things we did with this series was actually, instead of having 3 or 4 hour episodes, like some of our summits in the past, which we know can be too time consuming for most people, we cut them down into shorter episodes of about an hour and a half, which is, as Virginia's saying, totally doable and not too long. Susan said, I loved episode 5. I learned a lot from these fabulous doctors and teachers. Thank you. On and on and on. I have so many good comments here. So let us know in the comments below, what was your favorite episode? What's your biggest takeaway? What's the episode or the doctor or the speaker or the person you heard from? What was the biggest takeaway, something that you feel inspired by, or maybe has changed your thinking for the better, something you're going to take into your own life or into your patients' lives or into your family's lives and help you live a richer, more whole, healthy life? Let me know in those comments below. So while you're doing that, I'm going to introduce our two speakers this evening, and then we're going to get into all of your questions here. So Professor Dr. Dana Flavin, MD, is one of the top integrative cancer doctors in the world. She's been researching for 40 plus years and studied with 5 doctoral disciplines: chemistry, pharmacology, toxicology, biochemistry, and medicine, as well as she became a naturopathic doctor out of academic curiosity, which I love when she says that. Dr. Flavin has reversed many kinds of cancers in all stages in patients around the world. Dr. Flavin, just say hello here for a second, please. We're by the way, so honored that you're joining us, and that I know it's midnight there in the UK, and you have stayed up to be here on this webcast for all of our viewers and listeners to serve. I mean, you are truly a representative of somebody who deeply cares about your patients, who deeply cares about helping people, who comes from your heart. And this is just a perfect example of that. You know, it's midnight and you're here on this live webcast, you know, serving people all over the world. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're more than welcome, Nathan. I thank you for actually helping so many people and letting us help them. I'm actually working on a book right now that I want to give away to everybody. I want the whole world to know what I've learned, what I've done. I don't care if it's colleagues or patients or whomever, because there's so many clinics that wanted me to advise them, but many of them were not complete in their therapies. Many of them were more interested in money than in the patients. And I just want all the information out there so that all my years of experience can save as many lives as possible. And then my purpose is fulfilled, if you see what I mean. And I've been very, very fortunate to reverse so many cancers, many stage 4 sent home to die. And I mean, I just figured that God decides when we're going to die, not some other oncologist or some clinic that says, oh, well, we've given you all our therapy, that's it. And I just find that is not true, and that's not right. And I've been able to reverse so many. And it was a surprise to me. I have to admit, I never realized. If you would ask me 30 years ago, oh, we've got a stage 4 cancer sent home to die, can you do something? I would have said, oh, well, stage 4, forget it, we can't do anything. But this is where I really want people to know what is going on and how to do this. And it's not rocket science. It's taken me 40 years to put the pieces of the puzzle together. But people like Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and all of the others that say, you know what, you have to work here first and in your heart. And then all the rest is putting the pieces of the puzzle together. The detox and the diet and the exercise, and last but not least, the de-stressing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get into a lot of that this evening and answering questions around some of these questions people have around detoxing and around diet and around stress, and what you can do to empower yourself to live a healthier, happier life and a cancer-free life, which is so wonderful that we have you here with us, Pilar. Pilar Davila is a stage 4 terminal cancer conqueror. She was first diagnosed in 2010. She had a reoccurrence in 2014 and really was given no hope by 3 different oncologists. She then decided to find her own answers and not give up. She became a wellness coach and PEMF practitioner after she discovered that cancer can be healed. She is living cancer-free now. Make sure to watch the series where you get to hear her entire story. We won't have time to get into her full story here this evening, but make sure you go back and watch those episodes. Many of you, if you have seen them, tell me in the comments below what you thought about her story, because it's so incredibly inspiring. But Pilar, thank you so much for being here, taking the time to be here with our community.
Thank you, Nathan. I'm honored. I'm very happy to be here. I want to share as much as I can. It's been a long journey, and it continues to be, because it's my life now to help others. Thank you.
I'm trying to remember exactly what you said in the series when I interviewed you, and it was so powerful. There was a statement that you said, it said, you know, like, oh, I never thought that I could be this happy in life. And, you know, to me, it's like, wow, I think you're, if you don't mind me saying, 50, in your 50s, 40s?
51. Mm-hmm.
51. Yeah, I remember you saying that. And I mean, you look amazing and young. I would guess 40, and you're obviously very healthy and thriving. And to hear you say, like, even in your 50s now, early 50s, saying, I never thought I could be so happy in life. It's so inspiring, especially people who think, oh, I'm at, my second half of life. Life is going downhill from here. It's all disease and pain and sickness and unhappiness. And it doesn't have to be that way. That's what I love about your story, about the work you do, Dr. Flavin, about all the series and the work that we do through Conquering Cancer. It's about showing people that life can be so much more enriching and healthy and happy, even as you get into your later years in life. And it's possible for everybody when you learn this information.
Yeah, you got to find what works for you. But there is definitely a few things that everybody should do to continue that healthy lifestyle. And I never forget in my 20s, when I was 25, I felt awful because I was doing everything wrong. Drinking, smoking, stress, staying out late, going out, chronic stress, you name it, traveling. And I felt awful. I felt old. And now I have so much energy. I wake up at 6 a.m. and I don't take naps. And right now I was having my green juice. I juice every day or do smoothies every day. I walk every day, like I told you. But when I found peace is when I think the healing really began and lost the fear. Because when you're diagnosed with cancer, there's fear immediately. It takes over. And I told you this in 2019, something clicked. And I said, no more fear. I'm here. I'm going to heal. I have two choices: to be afraid and to go the wrong road, or have no fear, feel happy, and move on and continue to get better. And you have to believe it.
And you did. And you did. And you're an example. Dr. Flavin, do you want to add anything there?
Well, here's one of the things that I've been seeing over the years. Once your brain convinces your body that it can heal it, then it's like quantum physics. It starts to heal it. And that's where you want to live. And I would say that the worst thing is to say, oh, negatives, I'm doomed, it's gloom, I'm not going to make it, et cetera, et cetera. When you turn that around and you fight for your life and you say, you know what, I can do it and I can get better and I know they're right and I've seen it work. This is where the brain and the mind control whether or not you're going to get well. And I never would have believed this before until what I've been seeing in patients. And so we're putting a lot of patients on EMDR because of post-traumatic stress syndrome. And this blew my mind. I never realized how much the stress and trauma was playing a major role in our lives.
We put together an entire book, physical book, and ebook that comes with the entire DVD series when people order. That is the exact, it's a science of exactly that. It's a science of how our thoughts and our emotions and our every single day, our stressors, our anxieties, our fears, our childhood adverse events, our traumas, how they literally manifest in the body as disease, and how we can transform those thoughts, those emotions, how we can heal those traumas and release that disease from the body. Because we know everything's energy. And now, neuroscience has even identified something called neuropeptides, and how these kind of traumatic experiences create these neuropeptides that get stuck in different parts of your body. And when we release these kind of traumas, you can see these neuropeptides leave the body, which is really fascinating. So we know it's true from an energetic level. We know it's true from a biological level. And so why we call this series The Missing Link is because for a decade now, almost 15 years, but specifically for cancer, almost a decade now, where I've been teaching and learning and sharing about the importance of mental, emotional, spiritual health when it comes to cancer prevention, cancer healing. But it's always kind of been on the fringe of the fringe, right? It's kind of been like, yeah, that sounds great, sounds interesting, but I'll do it later. Right now I need to focus on my diet, right? Which is fine. Diet's important too. We have an entire episode on the anti-cancer diet, which is important. But it's where people often look for the simple, quick, tangible things, which often actually don't move the needle as much as something like healing emotional trauma that's keeping you in a sympathetic state all the time, which is downregulating your immune system and preventing you from healing or benefiting from all that good food you're putting in your body, because you've got these childhood adverse events or traumas or emotional blockages stuck in your body that are literally keeping your immune system downregulated and not allowing your body to fight cancer. That's why we call this the missing link, because all of these interviews I did and all this time over the years started to realize, look, this is actually the piece that we all need to know if we want to prevent or heal from cancer. And it is to be, just as you said, Pilar, maybe you can speak a little bit more on that, is how to find peace in our lives, how to find peace with the diagnosis, how to find peace when we have a stressful situation. I'll share a quick story from today that hopefully will give people some real tangible takeaways here. I'm in the middle of a big project right now. And we have really important due dates coming up for a whole series of videos, and a really important piece of this project due in like 4 days. And everything's behind, everybody's behind. We're like 2 editors short. We need more people. It's like we're in a really tight time crunch right now. And, it hit me today, like, whoa, like there's no leniency on this. Like we have to have all of this by this time, and it looks almost impossible. And so the moment I felt a little bit of anxiety, I just immediately went into my practice, which is like, all right, deep breathing, relax the nervous system. Fastest way you can immediately get yourself out of stress, anxiety, fear is do deep breathing. Take 4 or 6 breaths in, 6 or 8 breaths out, right? Do a few deep breaths, calm yourself. And then what I do is I go out into nature while you're doing this is the best thing. Go out into nature, get away from all the technology. And then, so I'm out in nature, deep breathing. And then I start talking to myself positive, right? Everything's going to work out fine. The solution is going to come to me easily. All the right people, all the right situations are going to align. This is all going to be perfect. We're going to have exactly what we need at the right time. I start talking to myself positive. What most of us do, what most people do, and what I used to do as well, was like you start just running through your mind all the negative things. Well, this isn't going to happen. That's not going to happen. This is not going to happen. Then he's going to do this and I can't do that and that. And guess what? We are perpetuating that vicious cycle of creating our own reality, right? And so we know through the biology of belief and Bruce Lipton and epigenetics, we can literally change the expression of our genes through our thoughts and our feelings. And so we have to practice immediately go, nope. And you have to feel good about it. Nope, it's going to happen. Boom, boom, boom. And then I went to go take my dogs for a run, kind of like get away from everything for a little bit, go out into nature. Boom, I got the idea. It was like, okay, call this guy, call this person, let this person know, let's bring this person on. Let's take the workload off of him. Boom, boom, boom. And within, half hour, we had 90% of the problem solved. And it was like that quick, but it took myself relaxing, knowing that we can solve it and start finding the solutions and believing in it. And so it's the same thing. I'm sharing this simple example because it just literally happened to me today, but we all experience that in our life, whether it's a cancer diagnosis or it's someone in your family or friends that's just yelling at you or not treating you right, or it's somebody in a car that's cutting you off, or it's you didn't get that job that you applied for, or it's, you just got a $50,000 medical bill from the hospital, no idea how I'm going to pay this thing. Whatever the circumstances are, you can address it and find the right solutions for it and not hurt your immune system and nervous system in the process if you learn to practice these things we're talking about. And so we have 22 evidence-based practices that are covered in that book that actually, and EMDR is one of them. I'm glad you brought that up, Dr. Flavin, because that's a really powerful practice, but it's essential if you're talking about cancer. This work is essential. Pilar, I know you wanted to say something there, so please go ahead.
Okay, so stress starts when you're young, and we got to teach our kids how to deal with it. And my daughters, the moment they started high school, I saw from the diet, the stress, the way their body was changing, breaking out. So when they stress, I tell them breathe and do jumping jacks. I said, okay, you have anxiety, do 5-10 jumping jacks right now. And then they let the anxiety out. That's a very simple thing to do. And also to disconnect from what they're thinking, from the problem, from the stress they're having. And you got to teach them when they're young, not once you get a diagnosis. I learned, I don't want to say too late, because I have a painting right here in my office that says it's never too late to live happily ever after. And I believe you're never too old to start. It's never too late. But you got to teach kids prevention. And it seems like nowadays a lot of people have anxiety. I was just doing some video this morning with 3 guys in their 20s, and I felt their age, I felt their same energy, but they all said they have OCD, ADD, anxiety, and this and that, and all these labels, and they're in their early 20s. When you have a problem, I always say the moon is not going to fall. The world is not going to end. There's worse things in life. There's worse things going on in the world. And just see the whole picture, and then try to calm your mind, breathing. I love, like you said, going outside, 20 minutes in nature. Go walk a little bit, clear your mind, and then go back to the problem and solve it. Either you solve it or you let it go. But we all live, it's a stressful world. Stress is attacking us from everywhere, you know. And if you have kids, you have a family. I'm a single mom. But I don't like to play that martyr or label like, oh, I'm a single mom with cancer. You know, I don't like that. I just try to fix the problem. Think positive. A friend told me, you're too positive. That's just not realistic. No, I'm not too positive. I'm just try to smile, because you get a lot with a smile. And when you smile, you feel better. Just even if you're crying or upset, just do a little smile to feel better. I'm a realist with a positive attitude. That's how I see it. I had no choice. They gave me a death sentence. Okay, I sat on my sofa for weeks and weeks, sad, in pain, and I was taking supplements, but that was not enough. I had to take action. And then later came the fixing my emotional health, my mental health. That was at the end, really, and forgiving. I think that's the hardest part. Letting go of what hurt you. Sometimes you say, well, this person had a lot with me getting this diagnosed, getting cancer. No, it's a perfect storm. I think it's a few, different things that can cause the disease. You just have to address them and check mark, get rid of them, and start a new path.
Beautiful. Dr. Flavin, you want to share anything there?
Well, there's a lot of patients that I've seen that have finally admitted, and sometimes ironically, the patient won't admit it. One of the family members will say, oh, Dr. Flavin, you were right. My dad lost his father when he was 13. Yes, it traumatized him, but he won't talk about it and he won't admit it. And these are the things that I've been seeing over the years that have come up, where you finally realize, holy cow, this is real. This is real. This trauma from whatever it was. It could be when you were 4 or 5. I mean, it's just incredible, and it'll stay with you as like a shock or a trauma. And that when I saw that EMDR could help to get rid of a lot of these negative things from the past. They did a study down in Florida where they were looking at soldiers that had come back from the war, and they had post-traumatic stress syndrome, and they expected that the results from the EEG, where they're measuring their brain waves, were going to be from the cortex, because whenever you have acute trauma, it's at the cortex. And to their surprise, it was deep in the brain. So they realized that this acute trauma was actually waking up a negative trauma from the past that was eating away at them. And this is amazing, because this is where, exactly like Pilar was saying, these traumas from the past will be suppressed until a new trauma comes, like a diagnosis of cancer, like, oh, it's a new trauma, but it'll wake up an old trauma and set you into a negative spiraling of cortisol and lowering your immune system and so on, depressive behavior, et cetera, et cetera. And this is where that has to turn around. So that's where all of these methods for reversing this post-traumatic stress and these things from the past, it's amazing. It's just amazing. I looked at Dr. Hammer's work from Germany when he lost his child. His son died, and a year later he had testicular cancer, and then he finally realized, oh my God, there's something going on here. This is coming from trauma. And this is really ironic because I ended up with a breast tumor when I was 20, 2 months after my best friend was 20 years of age with a breast tumor. It was not advanced to a cancer, but it was a tumor. Why the devil would a 20-year-old get a tumor? And then 2 months after my best friend was killed. And it was years later that it dawned on me, oh my God, Danny, you were traumatized. That was a trauma. And this trauma woke up something in the body and said, okay, I'm going to redirect this trauma into a tumor. And that's what the body does. And it's amazed me because I never realized that the brain controls the body, not the body controlling the brain. We don't learn
very
this.
common.
Yeah, we don't learn this in medicine.
Exactly.
I learned it from my patients. I learned it from you, Pilar. I mean, this is something where it's an awakening. It's an absolute awakening. And it's like a eureka moment. And you say, oh my God, you're kidding me. You know, we're just dealing with the tumors in conventional medicine. We're dealing with the tumors and the blood results and all of this other stuff. We're not dealing with the heart and the mind. That's what has to be cured first. Very, very.
And a lot of doctors don't recognize it. That my dad's an oral surgeon, and when I talk about things like that, he's just doesn't believe it. So I try not to talk about it. But every single one of my patients, clients, every single one has gone to some type of trauma. And we go back 10, 15, 20 years, every single one.
It's amazing. And it's the thing is, on the one hand, the colleagues will say, oh, well, that was just coincidence because everybody in the world has some sort of trauma from their past. No, it's different. It's a different type of a trauma. It's a type of trauma that they did not let go of. They reincorporated it into a tumor in their body so they could push it out of the way. And that way they could then concentrate on the tumor and they didn't have to think about what it was that was trauma from the past. Amazing. It's just amazing. Einstein said that physics would cure cancer. Well, the physics is the physics of the mind, of the quantum physics of what it does in the body. And I never would have believed this before. Okay, I had 5 years of psychology, so what, right? I thought, well, okay, you deal with the psychological problems, but I didn't realize that the psychological problems are what can cause your illness later on in life. Amazing.
Even though for thousands of years, right, there are ancient teachings and cultures from traditional Chinese medicine to Ayurveda to yogic traditions to the Vedas that talk about the mind-body connection, the mental, emotional, spiritual side of health and the importance of it. This has been discussed and discovered and shared for literally thousands of years. But coming in, and now our modern science has been verifying that one after another, after another, after another, even to the point where it is widely accepted that 95% of all disease comes from stress. I mean, that is a mainstream statement, right? Which is from a CDC or WHO. I can't remember exactly where it is. It's from a mainstream governmental global organization that says 95% of all disease is related to stress. That's huge. I mean, we should be shouting that from the rooftops, right? Even back in 1959, Dr. Eugene Pendergrass, who was a radiologist and the president of the American Cancer Society, he gave a speech. This was 80 years ago. 60 years ago. And in his speech, the president of the American Cancer Society, he said there's solid evidence that the course of disease in general is affected by emotional distress. He was imploring his colleagues to treat the whole patient and not just the physical manifestations of cancer. He said, it's my sincere hope that we can widen the quest to include the distinct possibility that within one's mind is a power capable of exerting forces which can either enhance or inhibit the progression of this disease. And that was the president of the American Cancer Society 60 years ago. And here we are 60 years later, and they're still oncologists, most oncologists and medical doctors are not taught anything about the mental emotional component of health and healing, specifically related to cancer. They don't know anything about it. And in fact, they are dissuaded from researching it and understanding it and just told it's fringe kind of conspiracy, alternative, unscientific information, which is, it couldn't be further from the truth, right? There's so much evidence today that proves this point that we have known for a very long time. It's just now I feel it's a time that more and more people realize the importance of this.
I think the biggest problem, Nathan, is that it's difficult to measure. We don't have something like black and white. Oh, here's a receptor, and here's a gene, and we can show that this gene is elevated in cancer. Oh, eureka, wonderful, that's it. And it's difficult for people to measure it and therefore you can't grasp it into something solid. That's number one. Number two, you can't patent it. You can't patent the treatments for it. So there's no money in it, is there? And
Right.
you don't want Big Pharma to be disappointed. I mean, they have to make money on something. So you look for drugs and drugs and drugs and more drugs instead of saying, you know what, be really a good idea if you prayed, if you meditated, if you listened to Gregorian chant and some of the ancient chantings, because they have the frequencies that calm down your mind. Maybe it might be a real good idea just to turn on a comedy, turn off the stupid news, just look at a comedy and laugh. And this is something where to start to cheer yourself up and to say, you know what, why am I looking at the negative when I can look at the positive? And this is what I'm doing right now. In fact, I wrote a children's story years ago, and I'm asking everyone who's listening for prayers for a little boy named Alfie, who is 7 years of age. So normally I don't take any pediatric cases because I'm not a pediatric oncologist, okay? And so even though I've studied so much in it, I just don't. I leave it to the pediatric oncologist. But this little boy's mother wrote to me from the Ukraine. Are you ready for this? 7 years of age with an incurable cancer of the midbrain, in the brain. And they said, well, he's got a year to live. And she's being bombed from the outside. This little boy, she's trying to save his life. And so I started researching. I don't know whether it will work or not, but I know from conventional medicine, there's no hope. And I thought, there's always hope. It's just like one of my professors said, there's always a treatment, you just have to find it. So we're looking at all of the different parameters and the oils, the topical oils. Years ago, there was a documentary also on people that have reversed their own cancers. And one of them was about a young girl who had a brain tumor and she used topical oils. So we're using the topical oils on him and we're putting everything else in there. And we're using ashwagandha because it's been shown to help in this. And we're using vitamin A because it blocks a particular polyamine pathway and all this other stuff. But we're all praying. I said to the mother, look, read of the story that I wrote. It's got a positive, happy ending. Okay, number one, put your hands on his head, say some prayers for him, make him laugh. And she said, we are watching comedies every day with kitty cats that are little cartoon characters. And he laughs and he laughs and he laughs. And I thought to myself, you know what? That alone is going to help this little boy. But in between, they're hiding out in the basement. So everybody, please say some prayers for little Alfie, 7-year-old boy in Ukraine. I'll tell you, I can't even imagine for the mother what a trauma this is for her to go through this. And I just feel that to me, I said, I do not give up until God does.
Mm.
And I just figured that, you know what, I've seen too many miracles. And just like with Pilar, you see miracles and you see people that can turn things around and you see how, and it's variations of a theme, but you're right. It's the emotional, it's the psychological. That's half the battle. The diet, the nutrition, the detox, the exercise, it's all of that plays a role. But if you're not straightened up here in your brain and in your heart to let go, this is where the few patients that I've lost One I lost because she was abandoned by her mother as a child, left in an orphanage when she was only 5 or 6 years of age. The mother would come back every 2 or 3 years and visit with tons of presents and then leave her. And this girl was so traumatized that she could not fight for herself. And these are the few exceptions that I've seen, or abusive relationship. I've seen women in abusive relationships that were married to men they were dependent upon. They were financially dependent upon them. They had several children. They couldn't leave. They couldn't go anywhere. And it's a horror story. And I've only had 3 of these patients over the past 30 years. But 3 was enough to hit me to see, oh my God, this is something where, how do I get them out of this? And this is something where one woman ended up getting rid of her cancer when she divorced her husband. And
I see that a lot. I see that. It's
I said, I
crazy.
didn't tell you to do this, but it probably wasn't a bad idea, or vice versa for a man that might not be getting well and not getting well and has an abusive wife. I mean, a spouse or a parent, it can be a parent, it can be a spouse. It can even be a family member where you have to get away from them. But it's incredible how this type of a pressure can play such a major role on whether you're going to get well and go into remission and beat your cancer or not. And so that's it. So like you're saying, Nathan, breathe in through your nose, out, and then do the meditations and so on. It just brings down all of those negative feels and brings down all of the adrenaline and brings down the cortisol and puts your whole body into a healing mode. It's amazing.
Well, Pilar, I want to ask you a question next. We have some questions coming in from our audience, and we've been focusing a lot on the mental, emotional side, which is very important. But in the docuseries, we cover, the evidence-based anti-cancer diet with world-renowned physicians and cancer conquerors like Pilar, who share their stories and case studies, and the science of the foods that we should be eating and the foods we should be avoiding every single day. We cover that all throughout the series because it is important. The detox, getting how to find the toxins and get those toxins out of your life, out of your home. All those things are really important. Toxins come in many forms, right? You were just talking about toxic relationships. Toxins come in bottles and soap and shampoos and perfumes. They also come in relationships, and we have to pay attention to that as well. I want to focus on something you just said, Dr. Flavin, which was really powerful, which is, at least the takeaway I have, is we have to surround ourselves with positive people. Surround yourself with people who believe in you and who believe in what you're trying to do and who support you in what you're trying to do. And if they don't believe in you or support you, then you need to let them know, I'm sorry, you need to not talk to me about this. If you have to be in that person's life and they're not willing to support you, at least tell them that they cannot talk to you about it at all, right? So you're not getting that negative, or you may need to separate yourself from them, whatever it is that you need, but you need the support and people who believe in you and who can, give you that inspiration and that empowerment, because the more people you have around you in your corner, like Dr. Flavin, like Pilar, who coaches clients, Dr. Flavin, who sees patients all over the world, people in your corner, they're supporting you. Like all the doctors in our series, when you listen to them, you feel that they are in your corner supporting you. You will be that much more empowered to take back control of your health. And you mentioned a little bit about diet, and we covered diet quite a bit in the series, and we have some questions about diet. So Pilar, I want to ask you, what was your diet before being diagnosed with cancer? And then what was the diet you switched to that you feel contributed to part of your cancer healing journey?
I love talking about this. This is a good question. Well, I'm Spanish Mexican, and I grew up in the border for 21 years with a very unhealthy diet. I remember being in first grade and drinking Coca-Cola at lunch and chips and flour tortillas and bologna sandwiches, but Coke, like water, and a lot of spicy, very, how can I preserve, candies with a lot of preservatives. And my diet was, people here where I am right now, it's in the border right now, drink Coke like it's water. So I ate a lot of red meat, you name it, barbacoa, fajitas, all red meat, a lot of processed food, a lot of fast food, a lot of sodas. As I grew up, alcohol, cigarettes, fast food 5 times a week. I didn't like vegetables, maybe apples, maybe a little bit of salad, but with fried chicken. Very unhealthy. Always on the go in a big city in Austin, Texas. Very, 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 very unhealthy. And I did whatever I wanted because I had very good digestion, because I was very calm. I was a calm person. Then here comes the cancer. I continue doing the wrong things. I just took the medication that the doctor said in 2010. My oncologist, he was like the God. Whatever he said, that's what I was going to do. So I did medication, continue my diet, the same stress. But then in 2014, I already had some knowledge about plant-based and detoxing, completely changed my diet to eating less, fasting, juicing, smoothies, plant-based. I do eat fish once in a while. I don't like processed food. I look at everything, make sure where it comes from. If my kids are going to eat eggs once in a while, I get them from the farm. But my diet is a lot of greens, a lot of blueberries, strawberries, all the berries, a smoothie every day with moringa, pea protein, pineapple, you name it, spinach. And that's why I have so much energy. That's why I feel so great. And my skin is better and everything's better because of my diet. Even though I had a full hysterectomy 12 years ago, you would think I feel horrible. But I have my moments, with the mood swings and stuff like that. But I have energy. I feel great because of the diet. Now, one thing, there's foods that are very hard to eliminate. So if you're having, we call it here at my house, clogging foods, my daughters and I always say, that's going to clog you. And we make a joke about it. If you're having foods that do not have fiber and your diet is all meat and pasta, alcohol, you're not going to be able to eliminate that easily. So to me, elimination is key. So if you're not having bowel movements, if you're not sweating, if you're not moving, that's going to be a big problem down the road. And you never know how many years. It can start when you're 10 years old, 20, 30, 40, you don't know. So elimination is key.
I have a family member who has switched to a plant-based diet recently. He'd been kind of transitioning more and more. He's been eating meat and fried food and fast food most of his life. He's dealt with a lot of health issues, but is taking back control of his health in his late 60s and is saying, look, I'm exercising. I want to live longer and healthier. I don't want a cancer diagnosis. I'm going to eat more whole foods, more plant-based foods. So he's been going primarily vegan for the most part. And the thing that he told me, which was so awesome to hear, is he's like, my bowel movements have been just amazing. I mean, I go 2 or 3 times a day. And I said, well, you should be going. And he's 2 or 3 times a day minimum. And he's like, yeah. And I said, how many times would you go before? He said, maybe once a day, sometimes not even. And that's a serious problem, anybody tuning in, if you are not having 2 or 3 bowel movements or more every single day, and good bowel movements, right? It's not struggling, it's not painful, it's not, obviously if you have colon cancer or something, of that degree, it's a different story. If you have Crohn's disease or something else going on, there's going to be pain involved. But generally speaking, your bowel movements should be nice and smooth and easy and full and 2 or 3 times a day easily, right? So he said, now, because I'm eating all these vegetables, all this fruit, all this, and he's loving it and he's feeling better and he's has more energy, just like you said, but he's getting those toxins, he's getting that channel of elimination moving, getting the toxins out of the body, eliminating, not letting all that fecal matter sit inside and basically ferment and rot, which is what happens if you eat a lot of meat and you're not having many bowel movements, and you're, that meat is just in eggs and dairy and whatever else, processed food and chemicals and things are just sitting in there. rotting literally in your stomach, in your gut, in your intestines. So you got to be moving that every single day. And he feels so much better because of it.
I have clients that go 10 days without having a bowel movement, and they think that it's okay. And they come to see me because they have migraines, inflammation, rashes, and they don't know what's wrong. And a doctor, a conventional medicine doctor there's no medicine that's working for them. So I said, tell me about your diet, bowel movements, and stress. Those three things, always. And all those three things are wrong. And 10 days they go, and that's a red light. That's a big, how can you go on like that? There's going to be some kind of disease coming.
Dr. Flavin, I know you do a lot of work with your patients around detox. What thoughts, recommendations do you have around detox?
Well, see, this is what listening to you all talking. The immune system actually starts in the intestines.
Right.
And we know that the bacteria that's in the intestines is one of the most important things for maintaining mental health, antidepressant activity, and raising the immune system. So if you're eating foods that are processed and you're eating a lot of glyphosates and pesticides and chemicals that's getting into your intestines and destroying your bacteria, right there, you're defeating yourself because of the fact that you're not getting the proper bacteria. We even know that for the immune system, there are some new drugs on the market that don't even work if your gastrointestinal bacteria isn't the right stuff. You need the bifidum bacteria in there, and you need a lot of the good bacteria that come from things like plant-based diets. I mean, you can't eliminate it. This is where it's extremely important, and it's also important that you go organic, because once you start messing up your gastrointestinal bacteria with GMOs, genetically modified substances that are put into plants and this is why I say organic, organic, organic. And you hope that it is organic. Some people lie and they don't always have organic. I found out that if you have one area of a farm that has organic, you can actually put from USDA organic on your product. And that to me is really unfair, because this is something where what we want the people to do is to have a good gastrointestinal bacteria. That's where your sulforaphanes come in with your broccoli and your cauliflower and your Brussels sprouts and all of these sulforaphanes that are, they're so anti-cancer. I couldn't believe it. They even did a study on broccoli sprouts at the German Cancer Research Center and found out that the best inhibitors for breast cancer cells were broccoli sprouts. And I was floored because they had the highest level of sulforaphanes. And it's like, oh my God, broccoli sprouts. God, my mother couldn't cook broccoli for her life. She was summa cum laude in medicine, but that woman could not cook a piece of broccoli without taking it out of the freezer, frozen, throw it into a pot of boiling water. Of course, water wasn't filtered either. And then put a top on it and cook it for an hour. An hour. It's like, as a child, I didn't want this stuff at all. In fact, was the one who had this, as the youngest, stay in the kitchen in this high chair where I couldn't get out. You're like trapped. So this little kid trapped in there. The dog wouldn't even eat this. This is how bad it was. And so I would throw it behind the radiator. And years later, I asked the wonderful lady that had taken care of me as a little girl, I said, gee, Rosalie, how come you never told my mother that I was throwing all my vegetables behind the radiator? And she looked at me, she said, oh, you was growing okay. And I thought to myself, that was a wise woman. She knew that I was surviving in spite of my mother's cooking. What I liked the best was to sneak into the back closet where they had the dog food, and I used to eat the dry dog food because it tastes better than my mother's cooking. So God only knows what I got in there. I think I survived in spite of myself. But now I love broccoli, and I love these things lightly steamed, and just, there's so many wonderful recipes out there for really good, healthy foods. And of course, the juicing is fantastic for those who do it. And all my patients are put on juicing. Carrot juice, by the way, the carrots have ruthenium in it, and ruthenium will take that DNA and repair it. It repairs DNA. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And the root plants, all of the turnips and so on, that parsnips and things that we're not that familiar with, red beet, these are all anti-cancer. And I'm like, how come we never ate this in the Midwest? I grew up in south of Chicago, and the only thing we had were like you were saying, Pilar. We had fried chicken, we had white flour we had fried chicken, white flour, sugar, and more sugar pops for breakfast, and all of that stuff. And it was just, and I thought to myself, it's a miracle I lived. I don't know. I don't know how I made it. I think I woke up. And once you wake up and you start to realize, food can be good, food can be healthy, food can reverse diseases, food can cure you. It can cure you. And this blew my mind. So the mind and the body and the whole gastrointestinal tract, bingo, put that in order, and detox, exercise, sweat out the toxins, the heavy metals, and so on. And I see these cancers turning around. It's just incredible. And if somebody had said this to me 30, 40 years ago, I would have said, oh, don't be ridiculous. We have enough with chemo and radiation and surgery. We don't, need any of this stuff. The other stuff doesn't work. It might put you in a temporary remission for a couple of months, or maybe if you're lucky, even a year, but it doesn't cure you. You cure yourself. And you cure yourself through your diet, through your exercise, through detoxing. And we do also for heavy metal detoxing, because it's everywhere. We have metals everywhere. We have aluminum or aluminum, and we have fluoride, which is also, of course, it's not a metal, but it's in our water and so on. And that messes up our pineal gland. What does our pineal gland do? It gives us melatonin. What's melatonin? It's anti-cancer. So if you have aluminum and you have fluoride, you're blocking your pineal gland. You're down-regulating your melatonin. That alone is just, and what else does the pineal gland do? It's supposed to connect us to our spiritual self. And it even has, it's actually a crystal, which blew my mind, and it has receptors in it for the eye. It has eye receptors in it. I couldn't believe it. And it's like, are we seeing another dimension through our pineal gland? Is this something that's creating spirituality? And I'm like, well, could be possible.
Possible.
I'm the most skeptical. I drive myself nuts. I never believed any of this for decades, until I started seeing how the patients were turning around by changing their diet, by changing their mental attitude, by detoxing and exercise. It was so simple. It was so simple. And yet we've made it so complicated in classical medicine. We've improved our radiation so it kills even more. We've improved our surgery so we can cut perfectly around that tumor and leave all the metastases on the side. And the thing is, and we're not curing our patients. The patients need to cure themselves. It's not the doctor that cures the patient. They cure themselves.
It's interesting about the pineal gland and how that's been a part of ancient traditions, spiritual traditions, as the third eye, if you will. It's been a major part of spiritual discussion for many, many years. And there are scientists now who believe that the pineal gland actually may be producing DMT, and that psychoactive plants like mushrooms or psilocybin, for example, activate the pineal gland, and part of what creates the kind of deep spiritual experience of oneness. And meditation can create the exact same experience, a deep experience of oneness and wholeness and bliss. And that it's things like aluminum and heavy metals and fluoride that we are surrounded by that actually starts to degrade the pineal gland from producing its benefits, its hormonal benefits. As you said, melatonin, essential for sleep. It's a major anti-inflammatory. It's a major anti-cancer hormone in the body, right? And so it's like detoxing the physical things, detoxing the mental, emotional, spiritual things, and how all of these are related to the, traditional Chinese medicine looks at all the organs, and they don't look at just the physical organs. They look at the physical organs. They look at the emotional aspects of those organs, and they look at the spiritual aspects of those organs. So it's such a funny thing, is where we in the West tend to get so myopically focused on just the physical aspect and forget about, well, there's all these other dimensions that are very real. And even though not physically tangible, they are tangible through our sensory experience. And our scientific tools are actually starting to be able to show the energies. For example, the how the heart sends out this magnetic resonance that you can actually measure with a special camera that extends out on this camera about 6 feet outside of each person's body, right? So like our scientific tools are starting to catch up to this invisible world that we all live in, and recognizing that that is the missing link, and all these other aspects are important, and we need to do them. Eat properly and eat whole, like look at the energy of the foods. If you're eating whole foods, living foods, foods that are not grown with chemicals, foods that come from nature, that food has an energy, a life force in it, that when you put in your body, you're putting that life force energy into your body. What do you think your body is getting from that? Life force energy. And then you put these dead chemical processed foods that come from manufacturing plants that are only about profit, that could care less about people, and you put that in your body. If you're putting something dead in your body, what do you think it's doing to your body? Right? So we can always go back and forth between the physical and the non-physical, but remember that it's so interconnected.
Oh yeah, you know how you clean up the pineal gland? You get rid of the aluminum with things like zeolite or spirulina or chlorella. That'll pull that out, and the fluoride you can pull out with boron. That surprised me,
Right.
and I didn't realize it. I make sure that all of my patients filter all their water so they're not getting any more junk in the water, etc., no heavy metals. Throw away all the pots and pans that are made out of aluminum or that have non-stick surfaces that scratch and have aluminum underneath, because it's the same thing. They might as well just be eating aluminum, and not to cook on aluminum. This is the other thing. And so these are the things that I look at, the practical aspects of it. But I have a theory on this in relationship to plants and stuff. I think it's photons. And there was so much work done by Dr. Pop, who took a leaf and he cut it in the dark, and they saw light coming out of the leaf.
Right.
Light. It was a photon. And I'm like, wait a minute, photons, where are they stored? They're stored in crystals. What's salt in our body? It's a crystal. And I was thinking to myself, the whole ocean is full of this. I think this is the only reason the ocean's still alive. First of all, it's constantly moving, so you're getting structured water in there. But you have all of this salt in there. It's picking up for thousands and millions of years photons, and these photons are a life source for us also. When I realized that if you eat dead food, you're not getting any photons, you're not getting any life source. It's like never going out in the sun. You're not getting any vitamin D either. And so these are the things where nature actually heals us through the sun, and what the sun's given to the plant is then given to us to help us. So you could say we almost light up when we eat foods that are fresh and green and freshly harvested by hands that love them, not like, oh, we'll cut it down and we're going to just throw it in a box and here, sell it for the highest bidder, et cetera, et cetera. And these are the things where the whole emotional aspect, I can't help but wonder. I've been looking at frequencies and physics for some time, and I'm trying to figure out what is happening with these frequencies in the foods and the plants when you pray over it. When you're going to have your meal and you say a prayer before you eat your meal, does that change it? And I'm trying to find physicists to measure this, because I think that there is something to this. And I do believe that this energy, well, look at Emoto's stuff where you speak to water and you freeze it, and then you say a bad word or a horrible word, and then you get these ugly looking things that are not even a real snowflake looking thing. The snowflake is actually a hexagon, because hexagonal water is the healthiest water in our entire body. It is made by our DNA that is healthy. It's the 528 frequency coming from the chromosomes that actually structures the water, and that structured water lines up right along the DNA and makes the DNA stable. So what happens in a tumor cell? We only have 20% structured water, only 20%. We have 80% in the healthy cell. Well, what the devil's in the tumors? Well, heavy metals. What does it do? It destructures water. And we've got parasites and viruses and all this junk It's getting into these tumors. And like Dr. Stephanie Setup from MIT said, Dana, sometimes I get the feeling that these tumors are actually trying to protect us from all the toxins in our body because they seem to go right into the tumor. And I thought, she might be right. You go in with chemo and you blast out all of these toxins and these heavy metals and these viruses. And what do? You just spread this whole disease. You don't help it. Sometimes if you're lucky and you cut it out, you might have success for a longer period of time. Sometimes, and I've seen that in some certain colon cancers. But I mean, for the rest of the therapies, I'm looking at it and thinking, we're not thinking properly in our treatments in classical medicine. What we're doing is we're destroying rather than healing. So it's time to heal that tumor. Let it go. Let it leave you. Get rid of the vibrations, like Pilar said. Get rid of all of the negatives. Get the good food into you. Get rid of the psychological stress and all of that stuff. And detox. Do your exercising. Do your meditation. Let it go. And you can heal it. And your body can heal it. But this is where it's a whole turnaround for me in classical medicine. I mean, God, I've studied more than anybody I've ever met. It's like 58 semesters later, and it's like I'm brain dead. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, we did it all wrong. We didn't heal the body. We tried to destroy it. We can't destroy it. We have to heal it. And that's why detox and diet and exercise and getting rid of all of the junk in there and the complications and detoxing the brain, like Pilar said, get rid of all of those negatives and go into the positives. And this is where I tell my patients, you've got to start laughing. You have to think positively. Start singing. Listen to the Gregorian chant. Let your body start to heal itself because it can and it will. It's amazing what the body can do. God made us perfect. We messed it up.
From the moment the baby's born, we start feeding that baby good things or bad things. But Dana, one thing that I learned from you the last time we spoke a few years ago, you told me, and it stayed with me, that it is important for a cancer patient to get rid of parasites. In Mexico and Europe, in some parts of the world, it's common. It's part of a family does this. They do, I think it's Vermox with a V, to get rid of parasites. And there's commercials in Mexican TV that they give the pill to each kid and to get rid of parasites.
Right.
My wife's family in from Veracruz, Mexico. She was just telling me about that the other day. She's like, "Oh yeah, we used to, when we were kids, like, I don't know if it was once a year. I think they did it like once a year. They took like it was like a
desparasitar.
Yeah, and it was an anti-parasitic. They didn't really know what it was, but it was like, take this once a year and kill the parasites because they're not drinking very clean water in a lot of places. So that's one issue. But there's, even with filter water, I mean, people are getting parasites from food, from so many other sources. So, and there's a lot of natural things we can do too to get rid of parasites, but sometimes they're so vicious. That's where integrative medicine comes in. Some of those parasites do not want to leave your body, and they've nested and created a perfect environment in there, or we've created a perfect environment because of the diet and lifestyle. But it is important, to get the parasites out.
Yeah, that's
another thing. Sorry.
Go ahead, Peter.
I just wanted to say that that's funny that you should say that, because I have a patient with a brain tumor, and it's a nasty one. And I said, it could be parasitic. And she goes, I was in South America back and forth. My oncologist said, oh, no, it can't be parasitic. I said, look, go to Dr. Cahill in New York. He's the top parasitologist for the United Nations. Let's see what we can find here. And this is where I have another patient with cholangiocarcinoma. That's very often liver flukes. And they can even come in the food that's imported from these different countries. So, and also in organic foods, when you're eating organic, you're going to get certain eggs of certain parasites. It's normal. That's why oregano oil, that's why a black seed oil, which is the cumin, it's fantastic. And this is what's interesting is if you look at the diet in South America and in Mexico and in many, in India and so on, they always have a lot of these spices in there that are antiparasitic. It's amazing. And of course, it tastes good. So you're killing two birds with one stone. You're making a wonderful meal, plus you're helping to fight and get rid of your parasites. So I mean, this is fabulous. But this is also something they don't look at. They don't test it. They don't look at it at all. And I'm thinking to myself, hello, it's in the literature. Here it is: cholangiocarcinoma, bile cancer, liver flukes. You know, Hulda Clark wasn't as stupid as everybody thought. She wasn't stupid at all. She was smart. And there are. And the thing is, in Pilar, you're absolutely correct. This is something where it should be also part of the diet. And the interesting thing is a lot of these antiparasitic drugs have a combination of antiparasitic and they help to block the tumor growth. So that's where mebendazole, fenbendazole, that's one of the newer ones that they're looking at too. You know, it's like one of my patients said, well, how do I get fenbendazole? I said, tell him your dog is 50 kilos. Because otherwise you're not going to get it, right? And we physicians can't write prescriptions for it. I mean, it just comes from the internet for, you know, a lot of these veterinary medicine places and so on. But the thing is, my patients think I'm nuts when I say, hey, look at the fenbendazole. It downregulates those glut receptors, which is the glucose receptors on the surface of the tumor cells. Hello, and it kills all parasites. And it stops the cells from dividing that are cancer cells. You can't go wrong with this stuff. You just have to be careful you don't take too much over too long a period of time and watch your liver. So a little milk thistle, throw in a little milk thistle and that'll balance that out. But it's incredible, isn't it, Pilar? When you look at it, and you know, Nathan, that the thing is, you're lucky that your wife is from South America, and you're lucky that you've got the Mexican diet, because you guys actually have antiparasitic compounds in your diet and in your spices that a lot of the Western world doesn't have. I mean, I grew up with just meat, potatoes, baking powder biscuits, and fried chicken. That's
how I grew up in Montana. And
the only spice was ketchup.
And it wasn't the organic low sugar kind either.
No, of course not. Of course not. In fact, you didn't eat a meal without ketchup. I even had an uncle that put it on eggs. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, oh my God. And this is like, well, it's almost a vegetable. It is tomatoes. So what can I say? So
the big problem was when the schools started counting the tomatoes on pizza as or tomato sauce on pizza as a vegetable, as a serving of vegetables. I was like, all right, we've gone too far as a society, people. This has got to end. Pilar, as we wrap up here, I'd like for both of you to take a moment. Any closing thoughts? Any final words of inspiration that you'd like to share, Pilar? And then also, as part of that, please share a way for people to get in touch with you as well. I know you also offer coaching, you work with clients remotely. So yeah, if you can, any final thoughts, and then, you know, website or best way for people to get in touch with you.
If you take care of your body is not going to betray you, and it will take care of you. And your body includes your mind, your brain. I always tell my clients, take care of your body, will take care of you. Chemo is a poison. So let's put all the good stuff first. I coach people from all over the world. They speak English or Spanish. I'm a PMF practitioner. They can find me at healingwithpilar.com. I also help people balance stress and go back 10, 20 years, and we find why the disease started. And I help them to have a little bit of peace, you know, but it's a very unique protocol that comes from many different doctors. And I took a little bit from everyone and I created one. And it's given amazing, amazing results. So healingwithpilar.com.
Beautiful. Thank you. Dr. Flavin, any final words? And then also how people can get in touch with you, support the work you're doing.
Right, sure. Well, I just want to say, first of all, cancer is not a death sentence, it's a wake-up call. And that they should take it as a wake-up call, not like, oh, my life is over, etc. No. Your life is just beginning. It's time to wake up, and it's time to take control over your own body. I started the foundation, COLMED, Collaborative Medicine and Research, at COLLMED.org. I started it in 2001 when I had a patient come to me with breast cancer, brain metastases, given basically 3 months to live, 39 years of age, and sent home to die. And when she went into remission after 3 months, complete remission from brain metastases all gone, tumors all gone. That's why I started the foundation, because I did it all naturally. Now, my treatments are not all natural. Many are off-label drugs just to speed it up. Let me put it that way, mechanistically speaking. So I treat with diet, nutrition, and mechanisms, you could say, with off-label drugs. But COLMED, COLMED.org, and what we're trying to do is to coach people and patients and help them with what they need to take, what and when and where and how and why, and work on the emotional part, work on with EMDR and so on to get rid of these blockages. But I would say that the thing is, it's stop the fear, stop the fear. And I've had cases where so many, I mean, lung cancer stage 4, and they sent home to die in palliative therapy and to go into total remission. I am as surprised as anybody, to be perfectly honest. I really am. I never would have thought this 10, 15, 20 years ago, but I'm getting one patient after another after another. That's why we're working on the book at COLMED, and we want to get a cancer book out that gives all of my secrets away, all of the information away. All they need to do is to buy the book. I'll probably charge $9.99 or something for it. I don't even care. It's not about the book. It's about, I'm not going to be here forever, but this knowledge should be. And this is something where I've had so many colleagues want me, oh, come and work at our clinic, oh, come and work at this clinic. And it's like, oh no, you guys push chemo. Why? Because you make money from it. No, colmed.org is there to help, to guide people, to get them well so that they have another job to do, and that's to help get other people well. So I tell everybody, look, COLMED can put you into remission when you follow all of this, but you have a job now to help other people. That's God's plan. So you didn't just get this so that you could wake up and have a warning call. You got this so that you could help other people. And I feel that this is something that I tell everybody, you know, mankind has one very important word in it, kind. And this is where I feel that we need to be kind to each other and help mankind and help each other. And this is why I want to get the book out. I want colmed.org to help everybody they can, COLLMED.org, because we're a nonprofit. And believe me, we are nonprofit. We're struggling. We're always trying to get more publications out and more research out and look for more things that will help people and to explain how they work for those colleagues who are completely skeptical, to say, look, this isn't just magic. Here's the mechanisms. It does work. But if you don't heal the heart and the mind, you will not heal the patient. That's the main thing.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time, for being here, for being in the series. I want to encourage everyone to make sure you go and watch every episode in the series if you missed any of them, because Dr. Flavin shares so many powerful solutions for cancer that we didn't get into here. Pilar's story is incredible, and she also shares so much more about all the different things she did to become cancer-free and reverse the stage 4 cancer diagnosis. So make sure you watch all the episodes in the series. You'll be so inspired and empowered and have practical solutions to implement into your life every single day. colmed.org, you can connect with Dr. Flavin and support her nonprofit. healingwithpilar.com, you can learn more about her great work. And I want to just share a few comments that have come in. Carol says, I watch the entire program as I do with all of your series. Thank you, Nathan. I look forward each day to my time with the series. Carol, we had, where did it go here? I've got like a few different pages pulled up. Carrie Young says, it was all good, but Dr. Dana Flavin was spectacular. Totally agree. Let's see. Someone says, thank you, Pilar, for sharing. This was beautiful. Pamela says, as a cancer patient intending to stay in remission, I love that. Intentions are powerful, right? Intending to stay in remission, I feel so blessed to have been able to view these amazing videos, which is so appreciated. A big thank you to Nathan, who's so good at asking the questions. Well, thank you. I was wanting to have answered by these amazing participants who shared their wealth of knowledge whether through working with patients, being a patient, or both. A precious gift that will keep on giving to so many. Bless you all. Jim McCarty, this is really beautiful. He said, I've been doing some or most of these practices that he learned from this series for 6.5 years now. Back then, he was diagnosed with terminal stage 4 prostate cancer, was told only had 2 to 3 years to live. Then he saw some other cancer documentaries and now this one. And so far, it has given him more life. Please take this information to heart, he says. Thank you. Again, let us know which episodes, what information inspired you the most in the comments below. And you can have lifetime access to this as well. All the information is below. Dr. Flavin, Pilar, thank you so much for being a part of the series. Thank you for taking the time here in your busy schedules and your late night there, Dr. Flavin, to be here and to share your love and wisdom with our community. Truly honor and appreciate. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for what you're doing for mankind. I appreciate it, and I know everyone who watches you and listens to you is so grateful for the love that you are sharing and really God's word of helping other people. This is what life is all about. This is what's important.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan, so much. Great seeing Dr. Flavin.
Same
So
here.
that we happen to be in this together.
Oh, wow, you're amazing. You're just amazing. It's such a pleasure to know you. And I think you're a wonderful example to let people know there's hope, and you have to take your life into your own hands. And it's really about loving yourself with the right foods, the diets, everything else, and to start smiling. And your smile can light up the world.
True.
It's just wonderful.
It's true. Your smile just makes me smile.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's
Thank
true.
you.
You're an absolute example to the world. You're wonderful. Your
Thank
daughters
you.
are lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right, everybody. Have a beautiful night, morning, day, whenever you're watching this. And we'll look forward